Europe, excluding the United Kingdom, is a regional economy dominated by Germany, France, but Italy, Spain and the Netherlands are also significant in the scheme of things.
Unfortunately, what is very significant at the moment is the conversation about that tiny little economy in the bottom right-hand corner of Europe, and that is Greece. Because we know that no country to date has ever exited the Eurozone, but it sure looks as though the Greeks are having a good crack at it today.
Right. So we are going into the Eurozone, and Mia, this is the conversation piece, as Paul has alluded to. What are your thoughts? There is obviously the concern out there, or rather the sentiment that has been expressed, that this is not so much about Greece exiting the Eurozone. That is not what they were voting about on Sunday. They were voting whether or not to accept the creditor terms on the table, and that is what they have clearly said no to. The fact that the Greek finance minister has now resigned is a clear indication that Greece is ready to go back to the negotiating table, and let's see whether a deal is potentially on the cards. It is not a given that we're going to see a Grexit.
I agree with you, Bronwyn. I think, it's more about the sentiment and how investors alongside all the market players are perceiving this as a risk. And that is, I mean, in any downturn in the market, it's all driven by behavioral sort of consequences. And this is a clear case that we don't know. Everyone's saying that it's priced in, but is it priced in? What's the market players going to do? Are they going to get skittish anyway? Normally they do. So if we see a big sort of decision made here, there'll most probably be an effect on the market, whether it's big or small. That we'll have to see, and we'll have to act on it as it comes along. But it's definitely a case for uncertainty in this area.
Paul, where do you stand on this? Are you firmly in favour, or do you anticipate this exit of Greece from the Eurozone?
I fear they are going to be thrown out, because I fear that the Europeans now are going to say, well, look, chaps, this far and no further. We put a very good deal on the table. You turned it down. You drove your own process, and you've now put yourselves outside of the acceptable process. So I only think the only prospect of a deal is a worse deal than was off the table before, and I can't see Tsipras going for that. So I think it's quite likely at this point that there is going to be a Grexit, which truly to me is amazing. But here's the thing. We saw the euro dollar open in the middle of the night, marginally down. We've seen European markets marginally weaker. I think the reality is that people have realized, equity buyers, investors anyway, that Greece is too small and too unimportant to really matter.
Greece being 2% of the Eurozone, I think the bigger issue here is the contagion element, and whether an Italy, Spain, Portugal will then say, we actually are also going to walk away from all our commitments to creditors, and we're going to break away as well. Is that not a potential issue?
It is a possibility, even though I don't foresee that, because at the moment, if you listen to what all these governments are saying, they're not interested in that, and they're very keen to stay a part of the euro. So they've been working very hard at their austerity measures to get everything in place and to actually try and save money and to pay back their debt. That is why one of the big reasons that Greece is in so much trouble, because they've not been coming to the table with their end of the deal.
And they're sitting with a 60% unemployment rate in Greece at the moment.
Yeah.
Pretty much between a rock and a hard place in terms of additional austerity measures, if you think about the majority of your population by far being unemployed.
Yes, but it could actually turn out to be a very salutary lesson for everyone else in Europe, because I think what's going to happen if Greece does fall out, the economic consequences are going to be much more serious even than the problems they find themselves in. So it will serve as a perfect example for why playing your end of the bargain is actually a much better idea. Yeah. But anyway, look, this is interesting
for financial journalists, this is like a World Cup event. So that's why we go backward and forward.
Because there's the picture, and I think you can see that it has slipped a little bit in recent weeks.
Hot or not on the Eurostoxx 50?
Well, I think it depends on your entry price, because there can be a lot of opportunity here. We've been kind of hot about certain stocks in this area. So this is the 50 largest one. So I might go hot here because I think there's opportunity. You just need to time your entry.
Paul?
Yes, and remember the big 50 includes some huge German companies, huge French companies. It doesn't include the UK, so you don't have all of that resource bias that London gives you. What's
We
interesting,
are invested in this
yes,
one.
thank you. That's the point I wanted just to note, is that we have exposure there, which yourself, Byron, and Narina took some months ago.
You
Then,
lightened the load
we
because you
halved
weren't
it.
so sure about our positioning.
Yeah, which was a bit naughty. So we actually are in that position, but underweight. But actually, notwithstanding that last bit on the chart, we're actually flat on this position. We haven't made money or lost money. I'm definitely hot on it. I think if anyone is selling stocks today because of this Greek situation, we should be buying. That's my overall takeaway.
And Mia, you've called it.